So I'm Laurens. I work at b𝗿𝗟 as a test automation engineer. At the moment, I'm a consultant at 𝘚𝘏𝗏, where we test the vehicle software. In short, the software that is on the bus that makes the bus drive, that makes the bus charge, makes the doors open so that you can get in the bus. That's my consultancy task at the moment at b𝗿𝗟. I have now 8 years of experience as a test automation engineer, and I'm happy to welcome you all for this session.
Thank you, Laurens.
I'm first going to give a little introduction about what I'm going to tell about the b𝗿 automation framework, and at the end I'll give a small demo. There's also at the end room and place for Q&A, so if you have questions, note them down and you can ask them later. Okay, so automation challenges. At the moment, there are a couple of challenges we have, like technology-dependent stuff. You have a project which is using web app that you need to automate, and that web apps today are actually quite a lot of technologies. At the moment, you have Angular, you have Ajax, you have React, and all those technologies come with their pros, but also with their cons. If you need to automate those kind of stuff, sometimes it's easier on Angular than on React, for example. That's easier for me. Automation tools to automate those kinds of websites also need to adapt to these kind of technologies. And it's not easy to do that always. Angular, for example, I know back in the days it started with AngularJS and has progressed to Angular, I don't know, 9 at the moment or 8. And your automation needs to go with that flow. If you successfully automate an AngularJS app and then it progresses to Angular 9, your automation also needs to progress that. And there are some problems that will go with that. With those problems, also another kind of technologies will appear. Like it states here, for Angular, most people use Protractor, but at a certain point, Protractor is not able to work with Angular. For example, with Angular 9. Another problem that can manifest is automation tools itself. People buy automation tools, for example, Catalan. It was free in the past, but now it's licensed. So you have a project, you automate all your tests in Catalan, and from one day to another, you have to pay for it. That's not a very good news, and also not very happy news, because you have to tell the product owner or your manager, yeah, all our tests, we can't run them because you have to pay a license now. It comes with an additional cost. Requirements change. That's also a problem that occurs and that we try to solve with this automation framework. Is at a certain point, you always report to X, and now you have to report to something else. And that's not always possible with tools like Catalan, for example. Catalan, to report to TestRail or to report to X-Ray, that's not always possible. And in an ideal situation, it should all, we try to automate everything, which is not possible, but it should be acceptable to automate at least a very large piece of it. And that's why, for those 4 challenges, we came up actually with the b𝗿 automation framework to solve a lot of these problems. So it's not a perfect tool. Every tool has its downsides, or also our automation framework, but it gives us the opportunity to always have the freedom to improve it. We have the freedom to report to TestRail, to X-Ray, or to automate to something else. We have also the freedom to not use certain automation tools for the web, but also other automation tools. Like I said with the example of Angular or React, we are not dependent on certain technologies or tools. Also, licenses. If you use a framework, it's yours. That gives you a lot of freedom, but with a lot of freedom, there come also certain responsibilities. You have the power, or you have the freedom to add additional stuff in it, to develop other features, but with that freedom comes a certain responsibility. And one of the main things, the two main things better to solve, or to what the benefit of this is to increase the speed. Nowadays we have an automation project, and okay, we have a lot of tests and we need to automate them, and you need to start from scratch. So you have to do everything from zero to the first test. That takes a lot of work, a lot of beginner mistakes, or even mistakes that happen to experienced people will occur. We are humans, we are not perfect. We do make mistakes, and that's something we want to solve actually by giving you a very good starting position. We give you a bright automation framework, like we tend to call it, and that automation framework comes up from people who have done this a couple of times, done this, have seen a lot of mistakes, have solved a lot of mistakes. And the second thing, it's prepared for possible future changes and new technologies. That's a big sentence, which means we are not technology dependent, or we can very fast create other modules to support certain new technologies. If tomorrow you can't automate your Angular website with Catalan, for example, and you can't do that with the Bright Automation Framework, which is possible, but let's say it can't, then we have the possibility or the freedom to very fast come up with a solution. And yeah, the last one, it's developed by automators and it's for automators. Now I have to make a side note of that. It's not only for automators, it's also for developers, for technical testers. We made the interface very simple so that actually everybody should be able to automate tests with at least a basic tech background. Okay, so Bright Automation Framework, I have talked about why we use it, what's the power behind it, but how is it constructed? In short, we have the core modules. It's very modular, which gives us the possibility to add new modules or to remove old modules in case they are no longer important. But the core is web automation module, we have a REST module, we have a logging module, and we have a reporting module. These modules consist a lot of features, like for example, reporting. We can report to TestRail, we can report to HTML. The REST module, you can automate all your APIs with it. It's a very nice and a very easy interface, so you don't have to concern about all the details. You can just focus on the task itself. Same goes for the web automation module. We tend to put on a certain way of working, and that's like almost 80% of you guys know the POM pattern. Our framework says a bit, you have to work like that. In that case, you have much more power to automate certain web applications. Another very important topic, which is on the development, is mobile automation. At the moment, there are plans to also come up with mobile automation, but that's for in the future. So to talk about web automation, so like I said, you can automate basically any website. Doesn't matter in what technology it's built. Can be in React, can be in Angular, doesn't matter. If you have worked with Selenium before, you know it's a lot of settings you have to use. You have to set which browser, if you want to maximize it and stuff like that. With this, you just create config, you add some additional capabilities, some additional settings, and you're ready to go. Once you have the config, you just pass it to the builder, the browser builder, and the browser builder will say, okay, here you get a Chrome browser. This way of working is also very handy if you need to test multiple things on different browsers. Let's say you have an account which logs in browser A, and you have account B that logs in browser B, and the changes need to be, if you do something on A, it needs to be reflected on B. That's possible. So you can control up to X amount of browsers at the same session. We have also this logging module. A lot of times we see automation frameworks without any logging. And then something goes wrong. And we try to keep our tests very small and very concise, but sometimes, tests can be very long and very time consuming. That's unfortunately, but it happens. And let's say you run such kind of tests, the test takes 1 hour. I have even heard about tests that take like 7, 8, even 18 hours. Those are not the kind of tests which I like, but okay, they happen. And something goes wrong, and then I hear stuff like, we don't have reporting, so we don't know what happened. Yeah, well, this kind of stuff should not happen. If a test fails, okay, that's life. That's how it goes. But you should at least have an assumption, or you should have at least some information that you know, okay, at that time, something went wrong there, and we need to have a look there. Not only in this case, logging is important. It's also important when you run a test for a very long time, and the test doesn't get broken, but something happens which is not good. And you know when, then you have this logging file where you can look, okay, at this time this happened and that happened. So it's actually for problem solving and monitoring at the same time. But like I said in the beginning, you have this reporting module to your disposal, but it's up to you to use it like it should. I mean, if you report a lot of stuff, but just that one thing not, then you have a problem, of course. So the baseline here is with a lot of freedom comes also a bit of responsibilities. We have also a reporting module for TestRail. We from B𝗿će, we like to work with TestRail. We have also used TestRail with a lot of other vendors. So we have this whole API built to actually work with TestRail's REST API. So that's easy for the customer or one of you that will work with this to just report to TestRail without any problem. Basically, you are able, with this interface, you are able to create projects, to create test plans, test runs, test suites, doesn't matter. You have that at your disposal with a nice interface, let's say. So reporting to TestRail is not a problem. Side note, it's not that we say we have this TestRail module that you as a customer have to use TestRail. You're free to use any reporting tool you want. If you have something like, okay, you guys use TestRail, but I use X-Ray, then we are always happy to support this and to help you with building a module for X-Ray, for example. So it's not that we say, okay, we have a module for TestRail, that we only use TestRail. In short, we can build any module in a fast time when you want to. Okay, and now for the tests. We try to keep our tests very concise and very small. Doesn't work always like that, because yeah, in the real life sometimes tests get big. That's what I said a few slides ago. But if you look at this is how we tend to work with it. We arrange our objects that we need. Like you see, we can say, okay, we need one browser, depending on the config. We build a logging module. We have certain pages we use. Okay, and now with the act step, which you can see here, that is what we're going to do. You see, we go to this URL, we click on blog, we click on test automation, click on the first blog article, and we want the blog header. And then we also take a screenshot and we close the browser. Then we check if the header is the header that we want. And if you work like this, it's easy. It's a long time that I have seen the slide. You can easily see, you can read it like a story, and you know what's going on. And that's something we are trying to, like I said, we want to give the user a lot of freedom, but we tend to give them also the advice, or we try to say, okay, if you work like this, your tests will become very much better and very readable. And that's something which is very important, that tests are stable and that they work, but also that they are readable, so that you know, if you read one, that you know what's happening. Also, side note for this, like I told in the beginning, anyone with a bit of a technical background should be able to write tests. If you look at this, well, it's not so difficult to write a test. Okay, you have the power of Visual Studio that has this amazing IDE, but you should be able to at least write a test if you know what you're doing. The REST module. Let me take first a sip. Okay, so we have also built a REST module because, everything works. Not everything, but a lot of stuff works with REST APIs nowadays. If you just look at microservice architectures or just a simple backend system, you have this REST interfaces, and you need to automate that. What I see, if you use tools like REST curl, whatsoever, is that they come with a very big interface and a lot of features. And what we see in the field is that you don't always need everything that they give you. They give you a lot of freedom, but with that a lot of freedom comes that you have to know a lot of REST APIs and a lot of REST or curl to automate APIs. And we try to, like other tools, try to simplify these things, while, like I said a couple of times, while maintaining the freedom that people who do know those ins and outs, that they also can do that. The reason why we built this REST module is, like I said, simplicity. It needs to be fast, because if you have a lot of REST tests, you don't want to wait ages for it. But also easy to use. We don't care on how to build. We just need to say, okay, I have this API, which is a GET. We need to auto-authenticate to just a simple username and an API key. We want to execute it, and we want to store it in a project's object. That's all you need to do a GET request with a simple authentication on it. Something which is very important and that we tend to, use is a fluent parent, so that you can easily create these kinds of requests. So, like the name also implies, fluent, that you can say, okay, we have this add project API. We want to do a post on it, like you see here. We want to set a header. Okay, we want to authenticate. And we want to add a JSON body to it and execute it and store the results in a project. All this is just one, it's actually a one-liner, but you don't have to, you don't have to know the ins and outs. You just define what you want and you say, okay, execute it, and the rest will be done for you. Important to know is, like I said, we emphasize that you use the Fluent syntax or Fluent pattern. We have also asynchronous and synchronous support. So if you, at a certain point, you need to set a lot of stuff before you can run the test itself. Then you can say, okay, execute tests in async. I don't care when it's finished, but once it's finished, then you do the test. Oh, yeah, the last point, you're able to deserialize the object, and it's not mandatory. If you don't say, okay, the contents you get, put them to a project. If you don't want to do that, if you just want to get the JSON string, then you can leave that out and you will get the raw JSON string. Okay, just what I also told is we have this reporting module, TestRail and HTML. For TestRail, it's quite easy. You just add the attribute test report. Oh, my apologies, test report. You give the title and you give the TestRail ID, and the system will know, okay, the outcome of this test, I need to report that to TestRail. How does it know that? Yeah, you give here the TestRail ID and it will report to that case. That's it. For HTML, a lot of our customers, they still require some kind of open document like the HTML to send their reporting or to send their results to the intern department. That's why we created a very simple HTML report. All these things I say, I will also show them at the demo, by the way. It's very easy to create this HTML report. It's a nice interface where you can just say, okay, we have a new suite. In the suite, we have these tests. These tests have these test steps, and that's it. You give the results and nothing more to it. And you can get this fancy HTML document. Also for TestRail is the same. I will show these also in the demo, that you can say, okay, the blog post failed, and then you can see why. You can give a very descriptive reason. You're completely free to do that as you want. Sometimes, okay, we have this web automation module, we have reporting, we have logging. Sometimes there's also the need for extra utilities. In that case, you can always call B𝗿test to support you with that. One of the latest utilities we have added is pattern matching. Sometimes you want to know, is that pattern visible on the web page? In that case, you can actually easily just use pattern matching for it. You use a pattern, you call the visual inspector, you create a screenshot, and you check if the pattern is there or not, and you will get a match percentage. Some customers require this kind of stuff because at certain web pages there are a lot of icons or a lot of drawing stuff. One example is that you have this map where all the pictures are, and you need to know if this picture is really there, if you add that kind of stuff. On the roadmap, like I said, we are also working on mobile automation. We are also going, mobile automation is work in progress, but it will come. easy reporting access. Like I said, we report now to HTML and 𝘚𝘌𝘚𝘚𝘚. How can we expand this to other vendors? Another one, which is also very useful, and that's another utility, if I may call it like that, that's also doing OCR. Sometimes you have an image with text on it. Is the text really there? Because sometimes the text is not really a text, but an image, and OCR can help with that. So the last slide, framework benefits. So like I told you, we give you a lot of freedom, but we try to standardize a way of working, like working with the page objects, working within an arrange, act, assert pattern. You don't have to do this kind of stuff, but we try to give you a standard so that everything is beautiful and everything is more aligned, so that if one person needs to do or needs to comes on the team, that he kind of see a good structure and that he knows, okay, this is how you write tests. Okay, if I have to do it like that, we are all aligned. Future-proof, like I said, protractor in the Angular example, at a certain point, protractor doesn't support it anymore. Our tool will be able to do that. We have the freedom to work with Angular websites, with React websites, doesn't matter to us. For me, the most important one is the extendability of the framework. We give you the framework, we give you the support. It's not like that we say, okay, here, go ahead. No. We give you the support. In case of certain needs, we are there to support you or there to build ourselves. But in the end, you have the complete freedom over it if you want. It's not, we're not going to say, okay, you need to pay that, or no, you can't use that because then you need an additional license. No. You get it as it is, and you're completely free to do with it if you want. And in case of problems, you can always contact B𝗿Test to support you. Why do we go with this approach? This is the next line, and it states very clearly and very nicely, complex applications require complex automation. Nowadays, it's no longer just a form that you have to fill in, click on OK, and you're done. Websites are very complex things with a lot of nice visuals, complex stuff, dragging, dropping, whatsoever. It requires some complex automation. We tend to make it as easy as possible, but in the end, sometimes it is a bit of complex. But we try to solve that with nice interfaces. And because this is a framework that is used in IDE, for example, Visual Studio, you get a lot of functionalities of the IDE. If you need to refactor a function name with certain tools, you have to do that all by hand. With this, you have the power of Visual Studio to just refactor it and be done with it. And last but least, it will kickstart your test automation project. You don't have to go from 0 to your first test. You can just get the framework. You can get started. You have a lot of projects that are started come with the same mistakes over and over and again. And a lot of us have a lot of experience, and we know these mistakes, and we have solved them by using the framework. Okay, so if you look here, this is an example test case of a REST API. Here we have this project. I will make this a bit smaller. And here we say, okay, create project. We do a post, add header, basic authentication, and you can execute to a concrete header. It's more than a slide, it's really a project. I'm not trying to sell anything. This is all real stuff. Same thing goes for these tests. You see here, we arrange the objects. We do a bunch of actions. Yeah, same for everything. I will now execute the tests. Okay. So it first goes to the B𝗿liche test site. It will open the blocks. Click on test automation. It opens the first article and reads the header. This one will fail. I put some mistakes in there so that you can see that it's not all green, that really tests something, because same here. Now it will go to another website. So we have just created an account and log in the website itself. Okay, so we're done. I will make this a bit bigger. There are one test cases that I didn't explain to you. That is a check if alive. For one customer, which had a lot of intranet websites, they wanted a script to test if the website or the intranet website is still alive. To give you a bit more context, those intranet websites were very important for other testers to do their job, because they did some simulators where a certain internet web application, some administration was an intranet website, and to see if everything was working. And this is where this test case comes from, to check if everything is alive. So we run all these tests and we can have a look at, I will refresh this. Okay. You can see here that we couldn't open a blog post, but we could perform a search to a certain blog post. We can create an account, we can sign in, we can open a video. That's all embedded in TestRail, but like I said, you're free to use any other tools. We have done a lot of testing, like you can see. Also the HTML report, which I was talking about. No. Like you can see, test if Ветя uses online. Luckily it is. I put some things in it so that it's not very obvious, that some things will fail so that you see, okay, it's not all green. Okay. Yeah, that's it for the demo. I'm done. Thank you for your attention, and if there are questions, feel free to go.
Yes, thank you, Laurens. Are there any questions for Laurens from the crowd? You can post them either. Hans, yes.
Sorry, I have a question. I saw that you're using Chrome as most of the times as your preferred browser, but I know that every time that Chrome has done an update, you need to also update the Chrome driver. How do you tackle that in this?
That's automatically done for you. You don't have to update the Chrome driver. That's being done for you. Side note to that is you have to update your Chrome browser to the newest one. That's something you have to do. But you don't have to update the Chrome drivers. That's all done for you.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Thanks, Hans. If there are any other questions, you can. Ibrahim, yes.
Yes, could you use the framework with other languages than C# or Java?
No, at the moment we only support .NET. There was maybe a plan to also port it to Java, but that's that's still in the future. So I can't say we will do that. At the moment, it's only .NET. So
Thanks. Frederik?
Yes. So you created this framework to work with web applications and mobile application API, REST APIs. But if in the future we want to do mobile automation, will it take a lot of effort to add that to the framework?
It will take some time, but because we already implemented other web automation tools, it will not take a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But I still, I'm not going to give a fixed amount of it, but in short notice, we can provide with a mobile module. Yeah. It will not take longer than 2 months, absolutely not. I would maybe say 1 month, but I'm not very eager to give precise dates.
No, but that's okay. And if you add the mobile, will it work in the same way as the that we saw in the demo or the screenshots for the web application?
Yeah, and even more, you are also able, if you do it like for web, you're also able to do web and mobile together. So like I told to the audience, you are able to run 4 or 5 web browsers at the same time. If we implement mobile, you should be able to also use mobile with a browser or 2 mobiles with a browser. That's the goal, at least.
And also in combination with REST APIs then.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Thomas de Bruijne?
Yes, hello. I saw there was a module for REST APIs. Are there any plans for SOAP APIs?
Yeah. Again, to be honest, we didn't talk about SOAP. However, it makes sense. It makes sense because still a lot of customers use SOAP. At the moment, there were no plans, but like I said, or like I stated in the presentation, if there is a need for SOAP, we are more than happy to create such a kind of module, which is also very independent, which you can use with web, mobile, REST, or just SOAP alone. But to come back to your answer, if there is a need, we are more than happy to build it.
Okay.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? I think maybe a general question, Laurens, which you already mentioned a few times, if there's a need for other modules or other extra areas which are not available in the framework. You said it before, I guess, that then we are happy to provide for that.
Yeah, sure. And like I said, at B𝗿će, there were a lot of senior people who I have made so many mistakes, which I learned from, which means I will not, or hopefully I will not do them again. So if we build this kind of module, we tend to know where we have to be careful.
Okay. Any other questions from anybody? Feel free to ask any other question afterwards if something pops up later. Laurens or I will guide your question to Laurens, will answer them gladly.